January 2006, Mayor Michael B. Coleman and Councilman Kevin Boyce hosted an African American Male Summit that led to the creation of the African American Male Empowerment Commission. The incentive for this summit was the disproportionate homicide rates in Columbus among young African American men in 2005. The Columbus Public Safety Department showed that 76% of the murder victims and 72% of the suspects were African American males. While these statistics alone are quite alarming, it also led many to wonder, what were the underlying issues concerning African American males that would lead young men to believe that using guns to deal with conflict was acceptable?
The African American Male Initiative was an initiative that was actually started back in the summer of '07. The mayor of Columbus, Michael B. Coleman, approached the Urban League about doing some programming that will affect the African American community, specifically the male population. We looked at several statistics that were going on in the city, some of the social ills, the higher rate of murders, and how the perpetrators were predominantly African American, and what can we do to kind of solve some of that. We've decided to focus on three main areas to kind of combat some of the some of the social ills that we have in our community. The first that we chose was to go into a mentoring program. I think everybody kind of does mentoring, but we kind of decided to create our own niche, do like a peer group mentoring, kind of change some of the values and cultures for some of the young people in the community.
The mission of the Urban Warriors program is to give youth the knowledge and comfort of taking pride in who they are, as well as learning to appreciate people of different cultural, racial, financial, and ethnic backgrounds.
The second piece was working with ex-offenders as they come home and getting them reacclimated back into our community.
The mission of Transitions is to reintegrate former prisoners into the community, reduce prison recidivism, and improve public safety through addressing the educational, employment, healthcare, housing, and family relationship needs of prisoners re-entering society by providing support and connecting them to needed services in the community.
The Transitions program is designed to service ex-offenders, restore citizens. We're trying to get politically correct on what we call men and women who are being released, formerly incarcerated, just kind of take your pick. What we do here at the Columbus Urban League, we actually go inside the institutions and we seek individuals that's coming home 30 to 45 days prior to the release. And the goal is to just offer services to them, such as housing, child support, record expungement, employment. And employment is probably the toughest barrier at this point due to the economy. But we try to offer services so they can come home and be that man and woman that they know they need to be. The program was needed for several reasons. I think the most important reason is because there's 51,000 inmates in Ohio prisons alone right now, in the 34 prisons that we have around the state of Ohio. And a third of them inmates are coming back to Franklin County. And a third of them inmates who are coming back to Franklin County are not from Franklin County. So you're coming to a state or a city that you're not familiar with. You know, where are the resources? Where's the opportunity? I mean, Columbus is the capital of Ohio, but where are the resources? Where's the opportunity? Where do I go when I'm released? I mean, especially if I'm not on post-release control or reporting probation. Where do I go? What do I do? So we thought here at the Columbus Urban League, since we are a community-based organization, we thought that we would try to offer restored citizens an opportunity to get their lives back in track. I think the most important part of Transitions for the community is to know that, you know, when I think of an offender, an ex-offender, I have a vision of a man and who he looks like. Now, over my shoulder is a gentleman who looks like you and me, just an average Joe. And that's what needs to happen. See, anybody who walks through the doors of the Columbus Urban League can be an offender. He doesn't have a tag on his chest, I'm an ex-offender, or a tag on his forehead, I'm an ex-offender. He's an average Joe, you know, and that's very, very important because there was a time where we were stereotyped as offenders. An average, probably a black man, 30 years old, looking crazy, with no future, no direction, you know. But that's changed so much because we all make mistakes, those who look like me, like you, we all make mistakes.
Then the third piece is being responsible fatherhood, getting more men to take responsibility for their own children.
The mission of the Father to Father program is to assist men in becoming the instinctive, responsible, and nurturing fathers they desire to be, while educating the general public on the important and essential role that fathers play in the development of their children.
Although we are the African Male Initiative, we do serve gentlemen of all racial and ethnic groups, all religious backgrounds. Through the course of the past year, like say, for example, in our fatherhood program, we've had an excess of 100 men already go through that program, but we've had at least 10 to 20% that have been of some other ethnic group. So we don't, we understand that the hugest part of the problem is with the African male community, but really it's really at the point where it's less about race in today's time. It's more about an economic divide. It's the haves and the have-nots. So essentially we serve pretty much primarily the have-nots. All of our programming, even the reentry piece, the fatherhood piece, even the Urban Warriors, always has the end result of the child in mind. As we work with the fathers, the end result is that child is going to prosper. Research says that children that have involved fathers, nurturing fathers, are more successful in school. They're more likely to go into college. They're more likely to have high-paying jobs, so on and so forth. Versus where you have a child that has fatherlessness and their father isn't involved, they're much more likely to become substance abusers, incarcerated themselves, so on and so forth. So ultimately, that does affect the child. Part of the process is that we teach men, how to communicate a little better. And a lot of times there's a miscommunication between dad and mom of that child. So we try to rekindle that relationship. Maybe they're not living in the same household, and we don't, want to force anyone to be in an unhappy situation. But when you have a child involved, we'll at least have to be able to communicate and be able to serve the needs of that child. The reentry piece, as we work with these ex-offenders coming home, part of that getting reacclimated to the community is getting reacclimated with their family, getting reacclimated with their children. A lot of times that's a huge void, and it's very difficult once you've been gone, especially for several years, to rekindle some of those relationships. Oftentimes, family members have given up on you, have written you off, and we've got to, bring them back into the family and kind of coach that family along that process. One of our biggest philosophies here at the Urban League is that it still takes a village to raise a child. It's not just the responsibility of individual parents. It's not the responsibility of the church. It's not the responsibility of any individual organization. It's the responsibility of the entire community. So each program, we've aligned ourselves with several different partners. For example, Urban Warriors, we work with Huntington Bank. We work with Diversified Development Group, who has done some funding for us. We have the relationship with the Elton Ward YMCA. And then obviously we have the blessing of Dr. Gene Harris in the Columbus City Schools. On the fatherhood piece, we have United Way, who has done a huge contribution for us. They actually come in and help facilitate in some of the classes. We work with COSI as one of our partners, Columbus Public Health. Trying to think what else we have here. Impact Community Action Agency, which is formerly Comanco. They come in and work with our ex-offenders and our fathers, because there's a ton of resources that they have available for men to take advantage of. In regards to the ex-offender piece, obviously we have partnerships with the Ohio Department of Corrections. We work with Columbus State. Columbus State has a nice program called OTAP, where they can give some of these ex-offenders some trade skills so they can go out and become employable. And those are some of the partners that we have, but we're always seeking to work with additional partners, anyone that can bring any type of resources to the population that we serve, primarily African-American men. It's taught me a great deal. One, it's taught me resilience. Although I've overcome a lot of barriers in my life, not till you begin working with the community do you really start to understand the huge gamut of barriers that are out there. Every case is different, every scenario is different, and it really starts to bring to your attention, like, wow, there are some serious social ills that we have in our community. And it's not that you can solve everything, but it's to do one step at a time, one case at a time, one situation by one situation, and then slowly but surely you start to make a community impact. That's the hugest thing that I've learned. The second thing I would say I've learned is the love. Prior to beginning this type of work, I really felt there was a lot of hate, a lot of animosity in our community, but once I begun this work and started working with a lot of people, there's a lot of untapped love out there. Even some of the most hardened criminals, some of the most hardcore guys on the corner have a lot of love inside. It just hasn't been tapped into.
For more information on the Columbus Urban League and our services, please visit us at www.cul.org or call us at 614-372-2344.